Hello, Duke fans. Welcome into the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast, your daily podcast for all things Duke Blue Devils news. Just like every day, we thank you so much for tuning into the show today to get your latest on the Duke Blue Devils. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. Happy to chat with you guys today, as well as every single day. Duke fans, as we all know, watching Saturday night's Final Four was very difficult. Seeing UConn in that position instead of the Duke Blue Devils, we all know what happened last Sunday night in the Elite Eight. Duke held a 19-point lead at one point in the first half, held a 15-point lead heading into the halftime break, still managed to lose the game 73-72. We all know what happened on that final possession. Braylon Mullins knocks down a three from the near logo to send UConn to the Final Four in a game Duke absolutely should have been in. I think Duke versus Illinois would have been a fantastic game to watch with the size and really the physicality down low that the Illini boast. But we all know that's not what happened, and UConn did, in fact, take down Illinois to advance to the national championship game, its third national championship game in the last 4 seasons for the Huskies, the most dominant program in college basketball over that span. Huskies move on with a 71-62 defeat of the 3-seed Illini. The other Final Four matchup, really a game no one saw coming. I think a lot of fans walked into this one expecting it to be an all-time type of Final Four game of the year type stuff, similar to between Duke and Michigan at Capital One Arena in February. Arguably the two best teams in college basketball. Felt like a national championship game, but it happened in the Final Four. 1-seed Michigan, 1-seed Arizona face off, and it was not close. Michigan demolished the Wildcats, winning by a score of 91-73. We're up by as many as 30 points at one point in the ballgame. Absolutely dominant win for the Wolverines. Really proved that they deserve to be in the national title game against UConn. And I think across the board, Michigan will be clearly a fairly heavy favorite heading into that game. I believe they opened up in the betting markets as a 7.5-point favorite. Believe that moved down to 6.5 points. But nonetheless, the national championship game is set between 2-seed UConn and 1-seed Michigan. Michigan obviously looking absolutely unbeatable at times. Looks like by far the best team in college basketball. But again, you can never count out a team as well coached, as connected as Dan Hurley. Injury concerns for both teams regarding that game. Yaxel Lendeborg dealing with an MCL sprain he suffered in the first half of the Final Four game against Arizona, but seems like he is cleared to play. He came back in the second half after being advised by his parents and agents reportedly not to play. He played anyway, knocked down 2 quick threes, but obviously was very clear to tell he was not 100%. You got to think he will do whatever it takes to play. And then on UConn's side, Solo Ball, seen in a walking boot on Sunday, kind of came out of nowhere. No one really knew what happened to him in the Final Four, but stepped on a defender's foot in the first half, played the rest of the game, played fairly well, made some big plays for UConn, but in a walking boot. So injury concerns for both teams. But nonetheless, this is the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast. We got to get back to Duke. And Duke fans, as if we didn't need more pain watching the national championship on Monday night, knowing that Duke probably should be in that game. And this is the second season in a row where Duke should probably be in the national championship game, and it is not. Led by the National Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons, Cameron Boozer officially won the AP National Player of the Year award over the weekend. Spoke on how kind of bittersweet it is to head to the Final Four to accept that award, but obviously knowing Duke should be in that game. But nonetheless, 1-seed Michigan, 2-seed UConn will face off in the national championship on Monday night. Now, why is this specifically sort of haunting for Duke fans across the country as opposed to every other fan base? Every team loses besides one at the end of the day. Why is this specifically hurting Duke fans? It's because it was in position to beat UConn just a week ago, and it's already beaten Michigan. So the national championship game is between a team Duke led against for 39 minutes and a team Duke beat. And Duke still found a way to mess up its chances of getting to the title game. We all know what happened between UConn last weekend. Duke absolutely blew it against the Huskies. Duke fell 73-72 off a Braylon Mullins three at the end from the near logo after Duke was up 15 at half. Duke had a 17-point lead with just over 17 minutes to play. It had an 11-point lead with under 8 minutes to play, and it had a 5-point lead with under 2 minutes to play. Duke still managed to lose the game. UConn held 2 leads in that game the entire night in the Elite against the Blue Devils. Those leads were 2-0 and 73-72. Those are the only times UConn led the entire game. As we've said on previous shows, before Duke's collapse in the Elite Eight, 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament that held leads of 15 points or more at the halftime break were 134-0. Duke makes that record 134-1, the second straight season where the Blue Devils face an utter collapse. Just last season against Houston in the Final Four, Duke up 66-59 with about a minute and a half to go, choked that lead away. Duke becomes the first team in NCAA tournament history to have a higher field goal percentage, more assists, more free throw attempts, more steals, and fewer turnovers than its opponent and lose the game. Before Duke lost that game to Houston in the 2025 Final Four, teams that marked all those boxes we just mentioned were 335-0. We've talked about it on the show in the last few days how sort of that, collapse tag is going to be on Jon Scheyer and the Duke program until he wins a national championship, and that's just the way it's going to be. That is how Duke fell to UConn. Duke fans all know it. We're just recapping it. Don't know why we keep recapping it because it's so hard to talk about. But that's what happens. And aside from just UConn itself being in a game that Duke probably should be in, Duke has already beaten Michigan this season. And, that felt at the time, that game took place in late February. Michigan was number 1 in the country at the time in the AP poll. Duke was number 3. That kind of felt like the game where we were really going to see who the best team in college basketball was all season long. It felt like there were, anywhere from 7 to 10 true contenders. Michigan looked unbeatable at times, but so did Duke at times. And this felt like the game where the winner of this contest would earn the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. And that did end up happening. Duke took down Michigan 68-63 at Capital One Arena, holding Michigan to comfortably its lowest point total all season long, and Michigan the best offense in college, or the best defense at KenPom in college basketball, a top 5 offense in the nation. Held Michigan to 40% shooting from the field, 24% from 3. Held Yaxel Lendeborg to just 7 of 15 shooting from the field. Elliot Cadeau 1 of 8 shooting. Cameron Boozer, just another stellar performance from him, 18 points and 10 boards. 4 of Duke's 5 starters were in double digits in that game. It really felt like a game where Duke kind of covered ground in terms of being a national title contender. It felt like Duke was kind of flying under the radar among those elite teams. It felt like for the majority of the season, it was Duke or Michigan, Arizona, and everybody else. And then Duke kind of a tier below. UConn was kind of in that tier with Michigan and Arizona. And ironically enough, we talked a lot on podcasts throughout the season where just based on the resume alone, it did not make sense for UConn to be kind of in that national title contender favorite tier and Duke below it. Didn't make sense. If things went the way they should have in the Elite Eight, man, how right would I have looked there? But now looking like a total idiot because UConn is now in the national title game with Michigan, and Duke was knocked out by none other than the Huskies. I think if you saw the final score and didn't watch the game, it'd be a little less disappointing than if you saw the way Duke lost that game. But nonetheless, pretty tough game for Duke fans to have to watch, knowing it had the makeup, it had the game, it had the resume, it had all the tools to be in a position like this. Not that it was any secret. And just the specific teams in this contest, one of them will hoist a national championship trophy, and Duke either beat them or should have beat them. And that's a tough pill for Duke fans to swallow. And that's the way it is. Nothing much, obviously nothing Duke fans can do now. I think for the Duke program itself, still processing what happened in the Elite Eight, processing what went on, processing how that shouldn't, or how to prevent that from happening again. Because obviously this is the second season in a row, and how many times in a row can it happen? We know Jon Scheyer is going to get back to the second weekend. We know he's going to get back to the Final Four. He's one of the best coaches in the sport, has all the tools and resources in the world, is an elite developer of talent. And once again, Duke is bringing in the number 1 overall recruiting class for the 3rd straight seasons, headlined by 5-star prospects Deron Rippey Jr., Cameron Williams, and Bryson Howard. A lot of intriguing decisions for Blue Devils to make around the rotation. Cameron Boozer, you have to assume, is gone. Consensus top 3 pick or prospect in the 2026 NBA draft. Malik Brown is out of college eligibility. Outside of that, no guarantees. We talked about Isaiah Evans, how confusing his decision, sort of making sense of it feels like. But guys like Pat Gungba, Dame Sarr, Nick Hamenya, Caden Boozer, Darren Harris go across the board. Ton of intriguing decisions to make. Duke fans will have a tough time tonight watching this national championship, but Duke will be there soon enough. That is going to do it for us here today at the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast. Just like every day, we thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure to check us out at si.com/college/Duke every single day to get your latest on the Duke Blue Devils. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI, and I'll see you tomorrow.